Ah, Starfish. A sacred sermon or a tall poppy? 1987 saw the church without a recording deal after the perceived lack of success of Heyday, but 1988 found them in Los Angeles with new producers, a new record deal with Arista Records, and they were about to release an album, Starfish, which sold around 1 million copies. More importantly than that, it broke them in America and it enabled them to reach a huge audience that they had never possibly been able to get to. In fact, I love the story that Al tells on his great channel Dead End Street about finding Starfish and getting into that album, but having such a problem and being such a bummer that he couldn't get any of the back catalogue because it wasn't available in the States. So my story is that I pretty much bought this album on the day that it was initially released. And I took it home, my parents were out, and I put the record on the platter and turned it up full bore and pretended I was in the band. And for the first week, I immersed myself in the whole album. Strange thing happened though. The second week, I only immersed myself in the first side. Third week, first two songs. Fourth week, it was just Destination by itself. And the fifth week, I put the album away and the band had left the building. So here's my latest copy. And I received this because I paid for the VIP experience when the church did their Starfish tour. And part of the deal was getting a copy of the album on white vinyl. Whoa, 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 whoa. Anyway, as you can see, it was signed by the two members of the band who were still in the band at that point, Peter and Steve. And as Steve was about to sign it, it was still in the shrink wrap. And Steve said to me, rip off that shrink wrap, would you? You are going to play it, aren't you? Like it was an obvious thing. And I'm sort of like thinking, I don't know that I will, maybe. Okay, yeah. Anyway, so the producers of the band got in for this album and Arista got in for were Greg Ladagny and Waddy Wachtel. Hope I'm pronouncing those correctly, because all the members of the band apparently really loved the production on Don Henley's The Boys of Summer. Now, there's a bit of a warning right there. I mean, we're not talking about Peter Walsh being chosen because of his elegant, his lush production on Simple Minds' New Gold Dream. No, this is Don Henley's Boys of Summer here. And this really is a problem. And as Marty points out, when they were in the studio, out went the psychedelia, out went the jamming, and in came the cold clinical precision and tambourines. There are tambourines all over this album. Oh, anyway, I don't know whether Richard had sort of checked out by this stage, but you know what the producers were asking him to do with the countless repeats, the countless retakes, should I say, left the album missing a vital part of their engine room, and also, as I said, gave it that cold clinical precision and made it very uh, tambourine-ish. So anyway, this week I have flogged this album. I've listened to it in the car, I've listened to it when I've been out walking, and I've listened to it on my stereo. And it is definitely iconic, no doubt about that. And it's incredibly important in the church's oeuvre, very important. But the big thing is that essential listening? And is it any good? Well, let's take a deep dive and find out. Side one kicks off with Destination, which is my absolute favorite song on this album and was the third single. Destination as a single? Yeah, apparently. Unbelievable when you think about it. I always thought this song was about the band deciding to take us on a journey, whether it be into the future or through space, with a sense of there was a foreboding that things weren't going to turn out too well. But along the way, there were going to be lots of experiences, ups and downs, which would make the chaos and futility of the journey absolutely worthwhile. And I think that's kind of a good metaphor for this album. The courage that the band has to, with the dynamics, to go from virtual silence at places to those motorbike engines, even though Steve apparently disliked them, and the chanting that goes on with the Hendrix-style hammer-ons and pull-offs in that instrumental section is part of the reason why I love this band so much. And these dynamics are like a rocket ship taking off and then jettisoning its booster rockets along the way. Everything is spectacular here, and the simplified, spacious production absolutely works. The guitars star along with SK vocals, and apparently the record company insisted that he take singing lessons, and he doesn't think they paid off, but I kind of think they do. I love those keyboards by Greg Kuehn in the choruses, absolutely psychotic, and what a beautiful stanza to open us into this album. Our instruments have no way of measuring this feeling, can never cut below the floor or penetrate the ceiling. In the space between our houses, some bones have been discovered, but our procession lurches on as if we had recovered. A stunning opening to this album. And then we go into the ubiquitous one, the song that is everywhere, and that is Under the Milky Way. And this is the only song I've ever done a recorded version of by the Church, and did it badly. It segues perfectly from Destination, but you know what? I've heard this song too many times. And when it was released, though, I thought it was the savior for the band, that finally this song would blow up the band on the international market, and it absolutely did. It's such an important number in their oeuvre, and which has enabled them to keep going. But even though it's associated with Australia, I really feel it has an American feel to it, a Los Angeles feel to it. And doesn't really sound like a Church song. And without Richard Ploog playing on it, they got in sessioneer Russ Kunkel, I believe his name is, to play on it. Doesn't really sound like an Australian song. I'm not a fan of those reverse bagpipes in the solo, particularly when there's so much beautiful psychedelic goodness just percolating under the bagpipes and really trying to get it out. Still, what I must say is that Steve's vocal is absolutely incredible throughout, and the backwards wah guitar solo by Pete is absolutely masterful and true psychedelia. Who knows, maybe I'm talking myself back into this song and those iconic lyrics, and it's something quite peculiar, something shimmering and white that leads you here despite your destination. A pun, a callback. There's going to be more of those on this album, Under the Milky Way Tonight. And that leads us into Blood Money. And for the first time on any of my videos on the Church, and I've done one into all albums and EPs that preceded this album, you can check out the links down below. I'm really struggling with something positive to say about this one. That doesn't mean it's a bad song. It just means I like it less than others. I like the backing vocals, and the guitar solo is fine, but fine's not really good enough when you're talking about these artisanal guitarists. Again, it doesn't sound like the Church to me. It sounds like an up-and-coming band that has a servable song that sounds sort of like, I don't know, the Divinals or Moving Pictures, and it's a bit uninteresting. And it was used in Miami Vice, so say no more. Maybe it's all about the lyrics. Somebody out there tell me if I'm missing something in the lyrics. It just seems to meander from start to finish, and when we get towards the end, it just peters out, and it's kind of, uninteresting. Then we move on to Lost, and this is the time to get out your cigarette lighters and start swaying them from side to side, because we have this new power ballad, which is almost like an adult-oriented rock song. The outro is so ethereal and totally killer. It's the best bit about this song, for a mile by me. I think Marty talks about this song being sort of overworked and suffocated, but that ending just breathes and is beautiful. The lyrics: the pursuit of adulation is your butter and your bread. It's an exquisite corpse, and its lips are red, and its teeth are glistening. So we move on to the last song on the first side, and that is North, South, East, West. And a true cynic in me is going to suggest that this is this album's Tantalized. Is that too much? It's a semi-psych rocker that sort of kind of doesn't really take off for me. I mean, it's got a lot of good things in there. I mean, Marty's initial guitar riff is fantastic, and he plays it about 15 times. The bass is absolutely beautiful. You've got the catchy chorus of "It's neither here nor there." The drums are okay, and the bass playing throughout the song, as I might have mentioned, is supreme. It's like the bass playing in Reptile, but that's unfortunate because, in the respect that I really only noticed the bass on a few occasions. And the solo section, what happens in the solo section? There doesn't seem to be a lot that happens except for those wonderful, heavily vibratoed guitars and some pounding for Richard. I really could have used with the end section where the soloing goes mad and manic. I could have used them to put that in the middle section and maybe save the end section for the the middle of the solo section for the end. But what do I know? The album sold 1 million copies, and I'm just some dumb, stupid guy who doesn't particularly like Starfish as much as all their other albums. Anyway, that's the end of side one. So side two begins with Spark, and it's Marty on vocals here. And I know a lot of people absolutely love this song, and I sort of can see why, but it's kind of passed me by. It just seems a little bit out of place on this album because it does have those rough edges and still hooks into the punk and garage rock aesthetic. I love when it drops to nearly silence. I don't know whether I ever saw this song live, but I bet that it would have gone down a total treat because it's here. It's where the air is clear, where far off things could be quite near. No repairs are needed, just a spark. And then we have another single off the album, which is Antenna. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of this song, and it's not just the mandolin by David Lindley, which you can hardly hear because it's getting lost, but it's got a bit too much of the old Mull of Kintyre about it for me. I mean, it's like they're singing a sea shanty and just waiting for the bagpipes to arrive. I'm going to say it again. If you love this song, more power to you. If you love the songs which I'm not worshipping in this video, more power to you, because I don't think I'm ever going to criticize anybody for disliking a song that I like or liking a song I dislike, because I think music's such a wonderful thing. But in this one, I really struggle a bit. And they return to that monotonous tambourine that we hear throughout this album. It's ubiquitous. Best parts of the vocals, and especially hats off to the backing vocals in the choruses. But as I say, it's just my response to it. Yours may be different. And then we go into Reptile. Finally, another Church classic. And this is the second single and a brilliant song. I actually go back way back with this song. I was asked to fill in on guitar for a few months in a friend's band while the guitarist was going overseas, and I looked through their set list and it seemed okay. And there was Reptile by the Church, and I vaguely remembered that it was a really good song. So I put it on and started playing it. And what I tried to do was play the guitar lines of Pete and Marty at the same time in the same length and the same song. And I think I did a pretty passable job, but it did really open my mind to how brilliant this song absolutely is. I mean, right from the beginning, we have Richard's hi-hats, we have that thumping bass, we have Marty's incredible riff, which he says spilt out of his guitar like diamonds, and then a great lead from Peter as well. I think I probably heard this song more times live than I had on the album, which is important because, spoiler alert, or should I say, tambourine alert, there are tambourines all throughout this album, and particularly in the chorus. I mean, now that I've heard this tambourine being so obvious, I can't unhear it. Now, I know it's supposed to be a coiled snake ready to strike. It's such a metaphor. It's kind of cliched and kind of beneath them. Worst of all, it's the loudest thing in the solo. Still, Richard's drums have great pounding funk to them, and his rolls are wonderful, and he's really just firing this song and pushing this band in the right direction. It's a classic. Reptile is an absolute classic, with those lines, "Go now, you've been set free. Another month or so you'll be poisoning me with your lovely smile. I see you slither away with your skin in your tail, your flickering tongue and your rattling scales like a real reptile." And now here's something, because, okay, I don't like a lot of these songs on the album. I don't rate a lot of songs on this album, but if I'm just trying to be contrary, you'd understand this. But one of my absolute favorite songs on this album, and one that I was really pleased to see them play live when I saw the Starfish tour, is A New Season. And it's a song in which Pete finally gets to see a lead vocal on a song. This is the first time, I think so. And it's such a thing of beauty and one of the most church-like songs on this album. I mean, Pete's not the worst singer, and I don't know whether he felt a little insulted that Steve came in to sing a couplet. And in another irony, Richard's drummings on this song are perhaps the drums which really appeal to me the most on the album. He's on fire. It's like a perversity of contrariness from him. That it's Pete's song now, so I'm going to make sure that my drums are absolutely outstanding. The guitars are just lush and gorgeous throughout, and I really love how this song builds towards the climax. After that first verse, it never returns to the simplicity of that, and the build in the intention in the solo really foreshadows what they're about to do with Hotel Womb. Sometimes I think some of these songs on this album are a bit bloated and could be a bit long, but I don't know whether this song deserves to be the shortest by about a minute song on the album, or maybe it's just the perfect length. It's classic West Coast psych, and there's some beautiful lyrics in here too, with the opening couplet of shaded crystal water, bathed in by God's daughter, sighing, whispers near, a new season passes here. And that leads us to the epic closer on the album. And it's a song that and we're talking about Hotel Womb, of course, and it's a song that I have struggled with for years and years and years because of the pun of womb and room. But I figure if I can put up with striking while the irony is hot, then I can just about put up with anything. Anyway, a friend of mine was waxing lyrical about this song, so I gave it another spin, and yes, it's iconic. It's absolutely brilliant. Those first 30 seconds of pastoral guitars are so beautiful and gorgeous. Marty calls them soft wave. And then we welcome in the riff. And it's like it's preparing us for one of the most essential songs in the canon, which I'm pleased to say now after listening to it a number of times, it most definitely is. Is the song about being in a hotel and imagining through the power of dreaming and imagination that you can escape the mundane and the humdrum? That's sort of what I have always taken it to be, but I know other people have different interpretations of the song, so please feel free to leave comments down below. The solo is ecstatic. It's a full-on epic with Marty as an absolute shred monster here. It's commensurate with what the song deserves. And the ending moves us towards the finale absolutely brilliantly. And it makes me want to take the disc and flip it back over to my destination. Great epic lyrics too, as well. A sudden voltage in the night with a rainforest girl. As we float downstream to the Amazon River where the black waters swirl. I say, why are you people wearing those masks? I say, can we be reconciled? She says, the mother of the storm has to roam the sky searching for her child. And that is the way the album finishes. So let me state for the record that I'm not calling this a bad album. I don't think the Church make bad albums. All I'm suggesting is that for my listening pleasure, this record sits a little lower in the Church pantheon of records than some of my favorites. Is it iconic? Totally. Is it important? Sure. I mean, people have had their lives changed, their lives affected by this album, particularly those who experienced it for the first time, and also the band themselves. Is it a good listen? Well, I've really enjoyed and got pleasure out of sort of giving it a flogging this week. Great to hear Hotel Womb with new ears, a new season. Reptile and Destination is always so amazing. And that brings us to the bottom line, the big question, is it essential? Well, of course it is. It's Starfish by the Church. All Church albums are essential. Anyway, that's my takeaway. Uh, Remember, if music of any size, shape, style, or sound gives you pleasure, then who am I to argue with your opinion? And I really mean that. If you love this album, then that's fantastic. More power to you. And I hope my contrariness might not have turned you off delving into some of my other videos on the Church. I'm far more positive, I think, on those, and the links down below in the description. And it might interest you that if I do Gold Afternoon Fix next, that I have some glowing things to talk about in regard to that. Anyway, if you like the video, please give it a like. Maybe think about subscribing. But until next time, hope you're all doing really well. And bye now.